Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Well, it is 14 degrees Fahrenheit outside. That is exactly minus 10 Celsius. Back in the day, when I was a little younger, I'd go out on days like this and do photography. But hey, I've decided to stay nice and warm inside and do a video for you. So, today I'm going to talk about 135mm lenses, and specifically the 135mm, the Canon EF 135mm f2L lens that I had back in my Canon days. And then I'm going to show some images from that lens and then talk about these 135mm lenses kind of in general. So the Canon 135mm f2 was a great lens, sharp, maybe a little too sharp for portraits, but you know, in DSLR days, you still could do things in post to ameliorate that. Had no internal image stabilization, which of course DSLRs, for the most part, there were exceptions, did not have in-body image stabilization. So, you know, you either in certain situations had to use a tripod. It was a fast lens, so those situations weren't as common as you might think. The other cool thing about that lens was it was compatible with Canon's teleconverter. So I had the 1.4 teleconverter, and I would use that with that lens. That would give you around, I think it was about 189 millimeters focal length. And then you could put it on a crop body, a Canon crop body, multiply that by 1.6, and you right around 302 millimeters, I think. And the f-stop drops to f 2.8 with the 1.4 teleconverter. So that was quite useful. And here are some images I shot with that. Most of these are shot with a 5D or 5D2. I think a couple, these are going to be, there's some nature, but there's also some images from election night in Grant Park, Chicago. I was there. And I used I actually had a Rebel XSI with that 135mm lens and got some pretty good images. Okay, so those are images from the Canon 135mm f2L lens. And you can see the image quality is just through the roof. Interestingly, Canon made an alternative, a less expensive alternative, the 135mm f2.8 soft focus. It was not an L lens, but it was still pretty good. And what it had was an extra ring on the barrel. And it had 3 positions, normal or off, and then 2 positions with increased softness to the lens. And if I recall correctly, what this did was it introduced more spherical aberration into the lens. So you got kind of a halation effect, a little glow around things. And for portraits, a lot of people like that. I mean, you can have a lens that's too sharp, as I mentioned, too sharp for portraits. These days, it's fairly easy to overcome when you're doing post work. But, and of course, that was a significantly less expensive lens than the f2L. But if you look at the 135mm lenses that are available today, I don't believe anybody has an f2.8. These are all f2s. Camera manufacturers are f2s, f1.8. Sigma has an f1.4, and the faster these things are, the more massive they get. And most people, most photographers probably don't need lenses that fast. So hopefully somebody's going to come along and make a 135 millimeter lens that's f2.8 in aperture. Still perfectly fine for doing portraits and such. Going to be smaller, going to be lighter, going to be lower in cost. I'll tell you one of the things I did do. I looked at people who have used the 135 f2L Canon lens with like the Sigma EF to L mount adapter, which is not cheap. That thing's over $200 even used. And generally people, from what I could see, the autofocus doesn't work very well. I suppose if you're doing manual focus, that's fine. Maybe there's somebody watching this who has used either that lens or another Canon lens adapted to L mount and can give their impression. So if that's you, please do. But yeah, I would think that a 135 millimeter f2.8 would be very interesting. I can't guarantee that I would buy it because I have the 85 millimeter f1.8 Lumix for L mount. And I would have to see if I'd really have a need for that. What would be really interesting would be if a manufacturer who's still in micro four thirds, hint Panasonic, came out with a 65 millimeter f2.8, could be an f2, depending on how big you want it, for micro four thirds. That would be an interesting lens. We know they already have the two 12 to 60 millimeter lenses that zoom lenses, but that would be interesting. So those are my thoughts on 135 millimeter lenses. If this was interesting or useful to you, hey, hit that thumbs up button. It's a big help to me. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. Hey, if you want to support this channel, I have a link to buy me a coffee down in the description. That is always appreciated. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you next time.